Good evening. Good evening to everyone. On behalf of Association for Veterinary Dermatology India and Intas Pharmaceuticals, I welcome all the veterinarians in the country for this wonderful webinar. This is going to focus on bovine dermatology. See, recently we have got a hell of a problem with the LSD. Everyone knows all the bovine practitioners are facing a lot of problem with that, and it is a very important disease nowadays. Everyone is facing problem with the farmer, veterinarian. Everyone is having very tough time with that. Not only viral disease, also bacterial, parasitic, and fungal, even nutritional diseases which can cause the dermatological disorders in bovines. So we want to know more about it, even though we have done one session of webinar on bovine dermatology with Dr. Sivaraman previously. Now we want to hear from our faculty who is from Jammu, who has got a very good exposure in this field, Dr. Rajendra Bharadwaj from Veterinary College, Jammu. I'm very happy to invite him also for this webinar. For his, we are expecting more from him, and I invite our colleague, our team members, Dr. Nitin Patia and Dr. Amanjot Singh also for this webinar. And I request Dr. Nitin Patia to introduce our guest speaker and let him go ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me first start saying that climate is not very good in Jammu, so we are having some concerns regarding the network. Still, we have with us Dr. Bharadwaj. What we are trying to do is we are trying to share the PPT presentation from our end from Ahmedabad, and he'll try to be vocal enough from Jammu, and we'll try to give him the control, but sometimes it may not be possible, so kindly bear with us. Dr. Bharadwaj is currently working as Senior Scale Assistant Professor in Division of Veterinary Medicine, Faculty of Veterinary Sciences, SQUAS, Jammu. He did his BVSc from SQUAS, Jammu in 2002 and was a gold medalist then. He completed his masters from PAU Ludhiana and was awarded a merit scholarship and certificate. He has served the Animal Husbandry Department as a field vet, as a VS, for 3 years, and thereafter he joined SQUAS Jammu as assistant professor. He is also a PhD from SWAST. He has completed number of he has received number of awards, as well as has been qualified for scholarships like Kashmir Administrative Services, Agriculture Research Services, and Senior Research Fellow. He has published more than 70 papers in national and international journals, authored one book, has been associated with 5 research projects, has co-guided 6 postgraduate students, has been received 36 awards during various national and Indian and international symposiums and seminars. We welcome Dr. Bharadwaj for this elaborative session with you on bovine dermatological disorders. Over to Dr. Bharadwaj. Sir, we welcome you.
Please unmute.
Kindly unmute yourself.
No, he has to unmute.
Good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the AVD, Dr. Nagarjuna, and Dr. Nitin Bhatia from Intas Pharmaceutical, who has given me this opportunity to interact with you. So my topic of discussion is on bovine dermatological disorders. So as you know that India has the largest bovine population, and it is having the largest livestock population with the highest cattle population and buffalo population. So these animals population livestock, they contribute 4 to 4.11% to the GDP and 25.6% to the total agriculture GDP in India. So these livestock, they suffer from the many diseases, and dermatological diseases are one of them. So these diseases, they causes the huge economic losses in terms of reduced milk production. There is a loss to the beef production, and also due to the dermatological problems, there is a loss to the hides and the skins also. So next. And as you know that the skin, this is the largest organ in the body in terms of bulk, and it has a many functions. But important is that it is the indicator of the general health condition of the animal. Next. So this is the structure of skin. As you already know that the skin, it is comprised of 3 layers. That is the epidermis, dermis, and subcut tissue. And next slide. And next please. And the dermis, it has the 3 layers, and this is the main difference between the cattle and buffalo skins. Why the buffaloes, they are less prone to the skin problem? It is because of the average thickness of the skin. In the case of buffalo, it is 6.5 mm, whereas in the case of cattle, it is 4.3 mm. You know that the buffalo, they suffer more from the heat stress because of the more melanin pigment in their skin, and they have a less number of the sweat glands, that is 349 only per square centimeter of the skin, whereas a cattle, they have a 2633 sweat glands. And there is also a difference in the total surface area of sweating also. In case of buffalo, it is 0.276 square millimeter in case of the buffalo, and 0.1245 square millimeter in case of cattle. Next, please, sir. Now, before going to the diagnosis of the dermatological disorders, so this diagnostic approach we have to follow. So first thing is, whenever any case is presented to the clinics, we take the history, and after that we do the detailed physical examination and clinical examination, and then it is followed by the laboratory procedures for the different dermatological diseases. Next, sir. So in the history taking, so it's very difficult, especially in veterinary, especially in large animal practice, to get the detailed history. So we have to take some questionnaire, and we have to record the regarding the signalement, that is the age, breed, sex, and color of the animal, from how long the disease it is present there in the animal, whether there is a history of itching or pruritus, and what is the season in which this disease is prevalent. Even also about the type of housing, whether the animal it is intensively managed or whether it is stall fed or whether it is free managed, and also other affected, whether the other animals in the herd they are affected, and take the history regarding the internal and external parasite control program, and also about the vaccination status of the animal, because many viral diseases like FMD also, they also develop the skin lesions. So vaccination status of the animal is also very important. We should know. And also about any topical medications which is applied on the skin of the animal, especially corticosteroids. You know, in most of the preparations which is topically applied, they can the corticosteroids, and they may aggravate the skin problems like dermatocosis and the fungal problem. Next, sir. So this is in the physical examination, we have to do the standard physical examination, in which generally we do the inspection, that is seeing the animal from the distance, in which we see any allopathic lesions, whether the animal is having itching, and then we do the palpation. We see the different type of lesions, even we palpate the lymph nodes also, and we auscultate the animal for any abnormality in the lung sounds or in the heart sounds, and the temperature and respiration rate of the animal is also recorded. The skin tint test also, it is done to know the texture of the skin also, and also to know whether the animal is dehydrated or not. Next, sir. So after that, we have to do the thorough dermatological examination. And by doing this dermatological examination, we can see the skin and the hair coat of the animal. And we can see the different type of the lesions, which may be primary lesions or which may be the secondary lesion. And we have to see for the distribution of the lesions this on the body, and also about the configuration of the lesions, whether the lesions they are linear, follicular, grouped, or annular. Next, sir. So these are the primary lesions, that is erythema, papule, pustules, crusted papule, vesicles, bullae, and nodules. These are the different primary lesions which are present, generally seen on the skin. Next. Then secondary lesions. So these are the scales, rust, erosions, ulcers, epidermal colerates, comedones, lignification, hyperpigmentation, etc. So we have to see for these primary and secondary lesions there on the skin of the animal. Next. So also we have to see for the skin changes, whether the skin is normal, it is a thick, thin, fragile, hypotonic, hyperextensible, or whether there is increased laxity. And also for hair coat changes, whether there is alopecia, there is a decreased hair coat, whether there is an increased density of the hair, whether the hairs they are the dry, brittle, or whether the hair coat is oily, or whether there is an easy epilation of the hairs. And also change in the hair coat is also very important. That is acrometrichia, that is commonly seen in the copper deficiency. And also we have to see for any cutaneous pain, whether the animal on touching the skin, whether there is a pain is absent, it's mild, moderate, or severe. And the examination of the skin for the presence of the ectoparasites like flea, ticks, lice, etc. After that, during the detailed examination, we go for the laboratory procedures for the dermatological disorders. It may include the dermatoscopy, wood lamp examination, then surface sampling, then combing of the hairs for the trichogram, and then skin scraping and cytological examination. Next, sir. So first is the dermatoscopy. So it is a non-invasive diagnostic tool which tells us about the detailed structure of illumination of the magnification of the cells, and it helps to diagnose the number of the skin diseases, and it is widely used for knowing the hair and the follicular abnormalities. Next. So this is the dermatoscopy which is done in the calf, and it's showing the excessive keratinization on the skin of the animal. Next. So wood lamp examination, it is also done for the dermatophytes, and only the certain dermatophytes like the Microsporum canis only. So they give the apple this bright green fluorescence due to the presence of the tryptophan metabolite. Next, please. So this is the Wood's lamp examination. So in the calf and also in the animal handler, which was having the this lesion on the neck. Next. After that, we can go for the surface sampling, and this is done by just taking the acetate tape. We can apply it on the lesions, and after that, we can take this tape and we put mineral oil on the glass slide, and putting this tape on the glass slide, we can examine it under microscope for the presence of the certain mites. Next, please. Hair trichogram can also be done. In this, what we do, we plug the hair sample, we put it on a glass slides, and after putting the mineral oil and putting the cover slip on that, we can see the abnormalities in the hairs, whether the hair it is in the anagen stage, whether it is in the telogen stage, or whether there is a presence of any anthracodia, conidia, like whether it is present inside the hair or whether it is outside the hairs. Next. And after that, we go for the skin scraping examination. And in skin scraping examination, we can go for the dry method examination, in which we directly collect the skin scraping on a glass slide by putting a mineral oil and putting the cover slip. We can examine it under the microscope for the presence of the mites or for the any fungal spores. Next. And we can also collect the skin scraping also in the potassium hydroxides, which is a wet method of examination of the skin scraping, in which we collect the skin scraping in 10 to 20% QH, and we heat it for 15 to 20 seconds or keep it at room temperature for 30 minutes. Or alternatively, we can use the potassium hydroxide containing the dimethyl sulfoxide. So it help us in the immediate examination of the skin scraping. We need not to wait for the 15 to 20 seconds or for the 30 minutes. And we can centrifuge this sample which is collected in the QH, and after that whatever the sediment we get, we can put a drop it on the glass slide. By putting a cover slip, we can examine it under the microscope for the presence of the fungal hyphae, for the mycelia, for the conidia, and for the mites. So this is a slide showing the mite. Then you can see the anthraconia and also the mycelia. Next. After that, we can even do the cytological examination, and this is helpful when there is a certain moist lesions are there on the skin of the animal, especially if in case of Malassezia infections, even in case of dermatophilus infections also. So we can take an impression smears, and even we can go for the collection of the pus from the actinobacillosis cases, even from the actinomycosis cases, and we can stain it by the Giemsa stain or by the Fields and Leishman stains, and we can demonstrate the different type of the microscopic examination. So this is the slide showing the bacteria and the Malassezia. Next. After that, we can collect the hair sample and we can go for the culture also. And for the fungal culture, we use two type of the media. So first is the DTM, that is dermatophyte testing media. So normally it is ambered colored and it contains the indicator. So when the dermatophytes it grow on this media, so there is the change in the color of the media to reddish color. So this is the slide showing the change in the color to the reddish, that is the dermatophytes they are growing. And these dermatophytes, they are white to vague powdery, having the fluffy growths. And even we can go for the culture of the these hair sample for fungus on the SCA also, that is separate chloramphenicol agarose. Next, please. And on this we can see the characteristics, colony characteristics of the fungus. We can collect the colony of the fungus on a glass slide, and by staining it with the lactophenol cotton blue, we can examine it under the microscope for the presence of the macroconidia, for the mycelium, for the hyphae. Next, please. For in the cases of dermatophilus, so generally the lesions they are crusty. So what we have to do, we have to take that crust, we have to mix it 1 or 2 drop of water, and we have to mince it. And after that, we have to prepare the smear of it with some applicator stick. And after drying the smear, we have to heat fix it, and we have to go for the gram staining or for the right staining, and then we can go for the microscopic examination under 10x or 100x. And this will demonstrate at the gram-positive filaments bacteria, which is having the railroad tracks. So this is the slide showing the railroad tracks of the dermatophilus. Next, please. Even certain dermatological disorders, they may be due to some hemoprotozoan infections also, like as in case of thalaria also, there is some cutaneous lesions are there. Even in case of trypanosoma also. So in those conditions, we have to go for the blood smear examination. We have to collect the blood from the animal, whole blood. We have to prepare the smear. We have to go with the Giemsa stain after fixation with the methanol, and we can demonstrate the dysthalaria and the trypanosoma in the smears. So that also tells us whether the cutaneous lesions are it is due to the thalaria or it could be due to the trypanosoma. So this is next is the skin biopsy. So skin biopsy is also done, and mostly it is done when there is some malignant skin tumors are there, and it provides the information about the nature of the abnormality. And very importantly, it helps us to differentiate between the infections, allergic skin diseases, autoimmune diseases, and cancers. Next, please. Other tests which can be done, we can go for the bacterial culture also, especially in case of pyodermic lesions. We can go for the CBC, complete blood count. Even some systemic conditions may also have cutaneous manifestations. So we can go for the liver function test, we can go for kidney function test, and intradermal skin testing. It is done too for the allergy conditions and many viral diseases like lumpy skin disease. Then we have this FMD. So these viral diseases, they can be confirmed by the viral detection by their isolation. Next, please. So now come to the bovine dermatological disorders. So these bovine dermatological disorders, they are broadly classified into the infectious and non-infectious. So infectious are due to the bacterial skin diseases, dermatological diseases, fungal skin diseases, parasitic, viral and protocol skin diseases, and non-infectious are due to the immunological skin diseases, environmental skin diseases, nutritional skin diseases, neoplastic and non-neoplastic growths, and miscellaneous skin diseases. Next, please. So now we will deal with these problems one by one, and I will discuss only those conditions which I have seen practically. So among the bacterial disease, the first is the actinobacillosis. You know, it's a very common. The cases are presented in our clinics, and it is caused by the gram-negative bacteria, that is Actinobacillus ligneaceae. It is a normal inhabitant of the bovine mouth, and these disease condition, it occurs sporadically in buffaloes and other farm animals. And this is generally, it is a normal inhabitant of the bovine mouth. It is transmitted whenever there is any injury due to the sharp object or foreign material in the mouth, mostly in the young animals when the teeth, they are erupting. So they develop this infection, and then the dental alveoli, through the dental alveoli also. And sometimes there may be the infection due to actinobacillosis in the esophagus also, or in the reticulum also. So there is a formation of the reticular abscess or in the esophagus also. So it is due to the sharp foreign bodies. Next, please. So these are the cases which showing the clinical signs. Sometimes due to the actinobacillosis, there is it is a wooden tongue disease. So where there is excessive salivation, there is a hard swelling of the tongue within 48 hours. Nadular ulcers may appear on the side of tongue. Animal is unable to eat. There is a difficulty in prehension and mastication, and there is a suppurative lymphadenitis of the mandibular and the pharyngeal lymph nodes in the animal. Please. So actinomycosis, these are also a common problem which is caused by the Actinomyces bovis. So it is a gram-positive bacteria. It is also the normal inhabitant of the mouth, and similarly, it also transmitted by the abrasion in the mouth. But this actinomycosis, it is generally seen more in the adult. The actinomycosis, the bacillosis, it's more commonly seen in the young animal, whereas the actinobacillosis, it is more commonly seen in the adult animal. Next, please. So this is the slide showing the animal infected with the actinomycosis. So in this disease, there is involvement of the mandible and the maxilla. So in upper, it's showing the mandible, the maxilla, the lower one showing the involvement of the mandible. So there is a bony enlargement due to the enlargement of the maxilla. There may be difficult breathing also. So there is a pressure necrosis of the skin, abscess formation. And this pus which is formed, it has the typical yellow white granule, sulfur granules, and the animal, it get emaciated day by day because of its inability to eat, and ultimately it may result into the death of the animal if the animal is not treated. Next. So these are the animals infected with the actinomycosis. These all are the clinical cases. Next, please. So diagnosis of these conditions, actinobacillosis and mycosis, can be done by the demonstration of the gram-negative bacteria, that is the Actinobacillus ligneaceae, in the sulfur granules. So we can go for the staining, and they appear as a club colonies with a typical thread-like bacteria. And the actinomycosis, it is a gram-positive bacteria, which is also appears, and by doing the radiograph also, we can see the bony involvement in actinomycosis, and we can go for even culture of the pus also to see the clonic characteristics of this bacteria, and we can confirm it whether it is actinomycosis or bacillosis. Next, please. So treatment is generally done. It's a common problem. So we are giving the potassium iodide, that is 6 to 10 gram for 7 to 10 days. till the sign of iodism appears. And the sodium iodide 10% can also be given intravenously at the dose rate of 1 gram per 12 kg body weight. And the antibiotics, that is streptopenicillin, they are very commonly used. Streptomycin at the rate of 5 gram per day for 3 to 5 days. It also yields good results. Some people, they are using the isoniazides also in combination, especially in the cases of actinomycosis at the dose rate of 10 mg per kg body weight orally for the 3 to 4 weeks. And the combined iodide and the local surgical treatment, it yields excellent results. Next, please. We have to go for the drainage of the abscess. Also, if the abscesses, they are immature, we have to go for fermentation. Also, we can apply the magnesium sulfate so that the abscess get mature and after its drainage. Large abscesses can also be removed, they can be excised. And if in case of actinobacillosis, where there is a tongue involvement, sometimes there is a buccal lesion also, we can go for application of boroglycerin or the Topicare SG spray. And the anti-inflammatory drugs like meloxicam, it can also be given intramuscularly in order to reduce the inflammation and in order to reduce pain. Next, please. The second condition, that is it's a dermatophillosis. So it's caused by the Dermatophilus congolensis, which is a gram-positive facultative anaerobic actinomycetes, and it may affect the 80% of the herds. And the cattle, sheep, and goats may also get affected. There are certain predisposing factors. So the disease is more common when there is a high temperature and humidity, and it is more common when the animals which are immunocompromised, where there is a animal which having the poor nutrition and which are stressed, and this disease also have a zoonotic importance also. Next, please. So the clinical findings are there is the follicular and the non-follicular papules and pustules that rapidly coalesce and become exudative, and the hair, they become crusted and matted, and that give a typical paintbrush effect. So lesions can also be photodermatitis. Lesions can also be seen on the muzzle and distal limbs. If the lesions are seen on the rump, then it is called as a rain scald. And if it is seen on the distal limbs, that is pastern coronator heel, it is known as a greasy heels. So there may be the edema, pain, and lameness. And if we remove this hair tuft, so it exposes the ovoid ulcerated hemorrhagic purulent and the painful epithelial defects. So the pus, in case of active cases, it is thick, creamy, yellowish, and greenish pus, but the pruritus, it is not seen in case of active cases. Next, please. So these are the animals affected with the dermatophillosis. There are clinical cases. Next, please. These are animals having the lesions in the limbs. You can see next, due to dermatophillosis. So it can be diagnosed on the basis of the history and physical examination by performing the laboratory test, like is presence of the railroad tracks in the crust smears, and even we can go for the culture it on the blood agar, and that shows the typical this white clonies. And the in chronic or healing phase of the disease, the direct smear, it rarely yield the positive results. Next, please. And for the treatment, we have to use the procampicillin at the dose rate of 22,000 international unit per kg body weight twice daily for 7 days. We have to remove the crust, and we have to go with the topical treatment with the shampoos or with the body washes spray for 3 to 5 consecutive days. And we can also do the treatment with the iodophores like povidone iodine. We can use the 2 to 5% sulfur lime and zinc sulfate, and copper sulfate can also be used. 1% aluminium sulfate is also used. Next, please. Fungal diseases. So mostly the dermatophytosis, it is a common problem seen in the cattle, and it is a superficial infection of the keratinized tissue, including the skin, hair, and claws. And mostly the 3 genera are responsible that causes the dermatophytosis, that is the epidermophyton, microsporum, and trichophyton. And if you see in case of cattle, the trichophyton is responsible for the dermatophysis. And among that, the trichophyton varicosum is the most common. Next, please. So as I told you that this dermatophytosis is worldwide prevalent. It is seen all over the world, mostly in the young animals, and it is caused by the trichophyton varicosum, very less frequently by the other trichophytons, and 10 to 100% of the herd may be affected. But young animals less than 1 year, they are commonly affected. Next, please. The clinical signs are generally seen on the face, head, pinna, neck, rump, tail, and perineum. And there is a tufted papules which enlarge to the whitish crust, which may be painful. And the annular regions are the rare. There may be scaling, and pruritus is also rare. So these are the photographs from our dairy farm in which there was an outbreak of the dermatophytosis. Next, please. These are the different animals. You can see the young animals which are affected with the dermatophytosis. Next, please. These are the animals. Next. So, you know, this dermatophytosis, it is also of zoonotic importance. So this is one of the dairy worker who also developed this ringworm lesions on the neck. And the lesions, they can be seen on the hands, arms, neck, face, and the scalp. So it was transmitted from the calves to this dairy farm worker. Next, please. So diagnosis can be done by doing the trichography, by demonstration of the mycelium and hyphae in the potassium hydroxide or in the hair samples, by doing the culture on the DTM or on the several chloramphenicol agar, and we can also confirm it by doing the dermatohistopathology. Next, please. So this is a dermatoscopy of that the calves done. This is a trichogram showing the anthraconidia. Next, please. This is a wood lamp examination, and it is generally negative in case of the trichophyton varicosum. It is present, generally seen, green fluorescence is seen in case of a Microsporum canis. Next, please. So this is a culture, fungal culture on the media that showing the trichophyton varicosum growth. Next, please. So this is the colonic characteristics. So ours, it's a white heaped and velvety, whereas the reverse side, they are white or pale buff color. So this is the colonic characteristics of the trichophyton varicosum. Next, please. Treatment is generally, we don't use the systemic antifungal drugs in case of large animal, because of the large body weight of the animal. It is very difficult to do the treatment. So generally we go for the topical application or the local application treatment with the weak iodine solution. So we can use the chlorhexidine solution. We can use this topical shampoo, antibacterial antifungal shampoo like miconazole, in the Mycodine and the Conazep shampoo, and we can go for the spray of the Dermaclor spray, which contain the miconazole with the chlorhexidine. So in these cases, we managed it with the Dermaclor spray and by giving bath with the Conazep shampoo. Next. We can use for systemic treatment, we can use the sodium iodide also. Grisofluben can also be used, and ivermectin. In our cases, we also use the ivermectin also 200 microgram per kg body weight subcutaneously weekly. Some people, they are using the aloe vera gel also. So it also yields the good results. And the supportive treatment is levamisole as an immunomodulator. We used in these cases at the dose rate of 2.5 mg per kg body weight subcutaneously, and along with the supportive treatment of the vitamin A, D, E, H injection, intervita H, at the weekly interval. Next, please. So these are the calves which were affected before and after the treatment. Next. Next are the parasitic skin diseases. So among this parasitic, choreoptic, sarcoptes, staphnofilariasis, tick fleas, and lice and hypodermesis. These are the common problems which we are encountering under the field conditions. Next, please. So first is the choreoptic mange. So it is also known as the foot mange or the tail mange, and it is caused by the choreoptic bovis. So generally it is seen in the stable dairy animal during the cold weather, and it is more severe during the winter months because of the animal they are in close contact, and it is transmitted by the direct or indirect contact. Next, please. The clinical signs, there are the lesions on the rump, tail, perineum, and caromiddle thigh, caudal udder, or scrotum. The lesion initially they are erythematous and they are the papules, and they may progress to the scaling, oozing, crust, and alopecia. And pruritus, it ranges from the mild to intense. So due to these mites, there is a weight loss in the animal, there is a height damage, and there is a reduced milk and the meat yield. And the animal generally they are seen rubbing the tail and perineum against the stationary objects. Next, please. So these are the choreoptic mange affected animals, buffaloes. Next. This is the diagnosis can be done by demonstration of the mite in the skin scraping, and we can also confirm it by doing the dermatohistopathology. Next. So next mite is the sarcoptic mange. This is a zoonotic, and it's also called as a scabies or head mange, and it is caused by the Sarcoptes scabies bovis. So transmission is by the direct or indirect contact. Next, please. And the lesions, they are mostly seen on the face, pinna, neck, shoulder, and the rump. So the lesions, they are erythema and papule, which are progressing to the scaling, oozing, crust, and alopecia. The pruritus, it is intense in these case of Sarcoptes, and there is a decreased feed intake, weight loss, decreased milk production, height damage, difficulty in estrus, secondary bacterial infection due to the continuous irritation, and also there is a myiasis may also develop due to the intense pruritus and irritation. Next, please. So these are the Sarcoptes scabies infected animals. You can see the lesions on the neck, even on the back. Next. Next, please. So it is also zoonotic, and the humans can also have develop this lesion, pruritic, erythematous papule and crust and excoriation, and which may be seen on the arm, chest, abdomen, and on the legs. Next, please. So diagnosis can be done by doing the skin scraping examination. We can demonstrate the Sarcoptes scabies in the skin scraping. We can see the ova, as you can see in this slide, and also can be confirmed by doing the dermatohistopathology. Next, please. So treatment for both choreoptic and for the sarcoptic mange, it is the ivermectin is the choice of drug, and it is used at the dose rate of 200 microgram per kg body weight through the subcut route weekly for 2 to 4 injections. Along with that, there is a intense itching in these animals, so we can go for the antihistaminics like anhistamine around 5 to 7 ml, along with the supportive treatment with vitamin A, E, and zinc also. Next, please. So next problem, very common under the field condition, is hypodermiasis. So this is basically more common in the young animal. They are more severely affected, and it is caused by the Hypoderma bovis and Hypoderma lineatum. So basically, these are the pathogenic larval stages of these flies, adult flies, which causes the lesions in the skin. That is hypodermiasis. Next, please. So in this picture, you can see the hypoderma coming out of the skin. So basically, these adult flies, what they do, they lay the eggs, fix the eggs on the hairs, and these eggs they hatch, and the larva come out. And this larva then it penetrates the skin and migrate through the subcutaneous tissue towards the diaphragm, where it even can migrate to the esophagus also. So due to the migration of larva, sometimes there may be obstruction in the esophagus that may result into development of the bloat. And sometimes these larvae, they may migrate to the, especially in case of Hypoderma bovis. So it may migrate to spinal cord, and it may result into the nervous signs also. Then there is a warble stage during the month of January and February, when the larvae they migrate to the dorsum and then reach the subcutaneous tissue of the back, and they create the breathing hold, and then they mold. And generally during the springtime, they become mature larvae, they fall out to the ground, and then they pupate. Next, please. So clinical findings are there are many subcutaneous painful subcutaneous nodules which can be seen, which is having a breathing pore. It is generally seen on the wither of the young cattle. And the other clinical finding, it may be due to the reaction to the larva. As I told you that the bloat may also develop due to the inflammatory reactions by the larva in the submucosa of the esophagus that causes the esophageal obstruction, and due to esophageal obstruction there is a gas accumulation that results into bloat. And the paralysis may also be seen due to the inflammatory reaction surrounding the dead larva in the spinal column, especially in case of cattle. And anaphylactic reaction can also occur in the cattle due to the rupture of the larva or due to the when we do the therapeutic destruction of the larva by using the ivermectin. Next, please. So these you can see the breathing holes there on the dorsum of the animal, and when we are pressing, so this hypoderma larva it is coming out. Next, so grub. Next. So diagnosis, it can be done on the basis of the history and the physical examination and by demonstration of the hypoderma larva from the skin of the animal, from the breathing holes. And for the treatment, the topical organophosphate applications, they are used to kill the migrating larva. And very important is that we should go for treatment at the early stage. If the later dosing is done, then it may be ineffective, and sometimes these dead parasites, they may migrate to the sensitive locations like spinal cord and esophagus, and it may result into the bloat and sometimes the nervous signs also. And the choice of drug for treatment of the hypodermesis is ivermectin also. You can use it at the dose rate of 200 microgram per kg body weight through the subcut route or through the oral route. It's very effective for treatment of hypodermesis. Next, please. Next condition is the staphnofilariasis. This also we have reported from our place, and there are 9 species of Staphylophila across the world, out of which the Staphylophila zahiri. So it causes the ear sores in buffaloes, and we reported it from our place. Then Staphylophila asamensis causes the hump sores, and this Staphylophila basically it is transmitted by the vector flies like Musca cundens and the Hematobia irritans. So morbidity may up to 70 to 80% in the endemic areas. Please. So clinical findings are initially there is a formation of papule and nodules. They are seen as the early lesion on the ventral midlines. And these papule and nodules, they may ulcerate and crustate, cause the alopecia and leukoderma. So there is a mild pruritus. And in case of the Staphylophila zahiri, so the lesions are concentrated mostly around the ears, and there is a papular pustular eruptions with exudation, excoriation, incrustation, alopecia, depigmentation, and nodules. And the lesions are seen also around the eyes. It may be seen on the wither, teats, and the udder of some animals. Next, please. So these are the ear lesions due to the Staphylophila zahiri. Next, please. These are the lesions on the teats, also on the ears. Next. These are the lesions on the ears and also on the hump and around the eyes. Next. So diagnosis can be done by taking the impression smears from the ear lesions, and we took the impression smears and we demonstrated the microfilariae. Also, we can take the skin scraping in the normal saline also, and we can demonstrate the microfilarial stages of the Staphylophila. The treatment is the ivermectin is the choice of drug at the 200 microgram per kg body weight to the subcutaneous route, and because the flies, they are responsible for the transmission, so we have to control the flies by using the fly repellents, and the wound can be managed by the topical application of the povidone iodine. If there is a secondary bacterial infection, we can go for the antibiotics also. Next condition is the lice infestation or pediculosis. You know, it's a very common problem in the domestic animals, and mostly the young animals with having the poorest body condition, they suffer more, and the animals which are ungroomed, they are more affected. And the lice infestation, it is generally more seen in the winter, because the animal, they are in vicinity to one another, and there is a transmission from one animal to another. So these, next please, these lice, they cause the skin irritation, they cause the roughened hair coat, alopecia and anemia, and they may be seen on the back, neck, brisket, tail, head, any long haired part of the body. And these sucking lice mostly, they cause the anemia because they suck the blood, and biting lice, they cause mostly the irritation. And because of this, there is a epithelial lesions and cutaneous debris are present there on the next please. So these are the rarely we can demonstrate the adults this lice, but the nits of the lice, they are very commonly seen on the hairs, and you can see in this in this slide, you can see the nits even on the hair of the animal. Next. So diagnosis can be done by demonstration of the lice and their eggs, that is the nits, in the definitive host, and these nits, they are attached to the hair shaft. And for treatment, we can use the organophosphates, we can use the synthetic pyrethroids, and again the ivermectin, it is the choice of drug. Even we can use the long-acting ivermectin for treatment of the pediculosis. Next condition is the tick infestation. So tick infestation, you know that it's very common in all the domestic animals, and it is having the global distribution. And the ticks mostly which are commonly found here in India are Buphalus, Ripispellus, and Hyloma species. And these ticks, they transmit many of the hematoprotozoan diseases and rickettsial diseases like Babesia, Theileria, even Anaplasma, tularemia. So next please. So these ticks, when they bite the animal, so they transmit the many diseases, and even they suck the blood, that results into the anemia, and it may result also the paralysis of the central nervous system in some of the cases. And if there is a heavy tick infestation, it will result into the poor weight gain and reduced productivity of the animal. It is because of irritation. So this next please. So this is the, you can see in this slide the heavy tick infestation in the animal, so which may cause the severe anemia and may result into the babesiosis and other hematoprotozoan diseases also. Next please. So these are the ticks. Next please. So diagnosis can be done by the demonstration of the ticks on the skin, and the treatment is we can use the insecticide, pyrethroid, organophosphates, and ivermectin. We can use the spray, dips, or powder. And ivermectin, again, it is a choice of the drug for the treatment of the ticks too. Next is the viral skin diseases. So among the viral skin diseases, this pseudococcus or the Milker nodules, this is very commonly seen under the field condition, and it is caused by the parapox virus bovis 2, and the lesions are mostly they confined to the teats, and it is transmitted by the contamination of the skin abrasions, and the milking cow and heifers, they are more commonly affected. Next please. So the clinical findings, there is a focal erythema and edema, and pain of the affected teats. The vesicles are not commonly seen in this, and you can see the orange papules evolve into the dark red crust on the teats, and when there is a falling of the crust, it gives a classical ring or horseshoe lesion, which is a pathognomic of the pseudococcus, and udder is also often affected. Next please. So this is also zoonosis, and these are it can be transmitted to the hands also, that's why it's called Milker nodules, and also can be transmitted to the calves also. Next please. So diagnosis is on the basis of the histopathology and on the basis of electron microscopy, in which we can find the eosinophilic intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies, and by the virus isolation. And you know, you all know that for viral disease we don't use any specific antiviral drugs. Only we have to check the secondary bacterial infection. For that we can use antibiotics like streptopenicillin 2.5 to 5 gram for 5 days to the intramuscular route. Along with that, since in these conditions there is a pain in the teats and lesions are there. So we can use the NSAIDs like meloxicam at the dose rate of 0.2 mg per kg body weight, and the topical spray of povidone can also be used. Next. So another condition is the herpes mammalitis. So it is caused by the bovine herpes virus 2, and this transmission is through the via contact and the insect vectors, and mostly it is seen in the lactating cattle and heifers, and it's more commonly seen during the summer and autumn. The morbidity in this condition may go up to 18 to 96%, and mortality is rare, and it causes huge economic losses due to the decreased milk production and increased incidence of the mastitis. Next, please. So these are clinical findings are mostly one teat or all the teats may be affected, and there is erythema. The lesions are almost similar to the pseudococcus. There is erythema and papule, and which may then further they may ulcerate, and the serum may ooze out from this, and ultimately there is a formation of the crust. So the lesions, they are very painful. An animal may kick at the time of milking, and sometimes the lesions, they may extend up to the udder, perineum and vulva also, and it may also be transmitted to the muzzle and in the oral cavity at the nursing calf. So in this slide you can see the lesion transmitted on the muzzle of the calves also. Next, please. So diagnosis and treatment, it can be done for viral diseases. Either we have to go for the electron microscopy or for the virus isolation, or we can do for the histopathology. And for treatment, it is similar to the pseudococcus. We have to use the antibiotic, we have to use the painkillers like meloxicam and topical spray of the povidone iodine. Next, please. You know, foot and mouth disease, it's a very common disease caused by the aphthovirus of the coronaviridae, and there are the 7 serotypes of this, and this is transmitted by the aerosol, contact, insect vector and fomites, and morbidity, it may go up to 50 to 100%, and rarely the humans may also form the vesicles on the hands or in the mouth. Next, please. So the clinical signs, you know, all disease, it starts with the high fever of 103 to 105 degree Fahrenheit. Initially the animal, it is depressed, there is an inappetence, then vesicle formation, and then there's a hypersalivation and nasal discharge, and the lip smacking. This is a classical early sign. Here in this slide you can see the depressed animal, and there is a ropey salivation. Next. Then vesicles and bullae, they develop into the painful erosions and ulcers, and these lesions, they may be seen on the muzzle, nostril, lips, oral mucosa, teeth, coronate, interdigital spaces. Abortion may also occur in the pregnant animal, and when the lesions develop in the interdigital spaces, due to this there is a lameness, and sometimes the hooves, they get detached, and or there is a severe laminitis which is followed by the deformed hooves. So these are the animals affected, showing the gum lesions on the gums and dental part due to FMD. Next, please. These are the foot on in oral lesions. Next, please. These all photographs from the outbreaks. These are the lesions on the tongue and on the buccal papilla. These are the teeth lesions and the udder lesions due to FMD. These are the lesion in the interdigital spaces and also on the coronary band of the hooves. This is the mortality in young calf due to FMD, and the lesions are found on the dental part. And when the postmortem was done, we can demonstrate. Next, please. So this is a congested lungs and with the tigroid heart, that confirm that this is due to FMD, the death was due to FMD. Next, please. So diagnosis, it can be done by the virus isolation and by the viral antigen detection test, and also by serology of the clotted blood. And even we can go for the molecular detection also. So treatment is washing of the lesion with the PP solution, then mouthwash can be given. We can go for the antiseptic dressing of the wound with the povidone iodine, and for the oral regions, the Topicare SG spray is available that we can spray in order to reduce the pain due to the oral lesions. Next, please. And since it's a viral disease and there is a secondary bacterial infections, there may be pneumonia also, there may be secondary bacterial infection in the hooves also, there may be development of mastitis. We use the secondary, in order to treat the secondary bacterial infections, we use the antibiotics like streptopenicillin. So it can be given along with the antihistaminics and the NSAIDs like meloxicam, and supportive Trivivet can also be B1, B6, B12 can also be given to the animals. Next, please. So the next skin disease that is very common. It's more in the south part of the India. So far, with the grace of God, it has not reached in our state. So it's a lumpy skin disease. So this lumpy skin disease, it's a chronic infectious disease, and which is caused by the Capripox virus, and it is transmitted by the insect vectors and by the Stomoxys calcitrans. And morbidity, it may go from 5 to 80%, and mortality may go up to 3%. Next, please. So in this, the clinical sign, there is a fever, anorexia. There may be ocular and nasal discharge followed by the hypersalivation, and then there is a lymphadenopathy. There's a firm papule and nodules, and then there is a erect tufts of the hair, and these lesions, they may ooze and they may ulcerate, and afterward there is a formation of the dry gus. So these photographs, they are from the internet. This is not mine photo. Next, please. So these large lesions, they necrose and separate from the surrounding normal skin scar. So there may be the lesions, edema of the limb on the delap, brisket, and the genitalia also. The legs may swell up to 3 to 4 times of the normal size. And there may be secondary bacterial infections, or there may be maggots formation also in the lesions. Then there may be erosion and the ulcers on the nasal and oral mucosa, weight loss, reduced milk production, abortion may also occur in some of the animal. And the teat lesion, it may result into development of the mastitis. And this disease, it causes the extensive damage to the hide, to the skin of the animal. So this disease has a great economic importance. So diagnosis can be done on the basis of the history and clinical sign, necropsy examination, dermatohistopathology, and also by the virus isolation. So similarly, it's a viral disease. We can't do much. So we have to use the antibiotic to check secondary bacterial infections. The painkillers, NSAID, meloxicam can be given in order to reduce the pain. And we have to do the wound care, which can be done by spraying the Megaut or other povidone iodine spray. The next conditions which comes are the immunological skin diseases, and the first one is milk allergy. So these are clinical cases which you have seen. It's a autoallergic disease, and in which the animal, it is sensitized to the casein of its own milk. So this was the case in which the animal was not milked last night, and in the morning the animal developed these lesions. Its animal was having the normal body temperature, but the lesions they were having with the digital pressure. And generally these lesions, they disappear within 24 to 72 hours. And then again the new lesions may also develop. Next, please. So this is another case. Next, please. So these are the lesions. You can see there is erythema on the limbs, on the forelimbs, hind limbs. The udder is swollen. There is a erythema on the teats also. Next, please. These all lesions, even on the face also. Edema and that pits. Next. So diagnosis can be done on the history and physical examination, and these lesions, they may pit with the digital pressure. We can confirm it by doing the dermatohistopathology also. And the treatment is, we have to use the antihistaminics like antihistamine. You can give 5 to 7 ml intramuscular we can use the corticosteroids like isoflurane can be given because it doesn't affect the milk yield of the animal, and also safe in pregnant animals also. So that is the choice which we use, especially in case of buffaloes. And we can avoid this condition by avoiding the retention of the milk and by doing the milking regularly. Next, please. This is the another condition, that is a primary irritant contact dermatitis. So this is also seen when the animal, it comes in direct contact with some like urine or feces, and the lesions are formed in the perineum and the rear end. Sometimes due to the bedding of the animal, the lesions may be seen on the ventrum of the ventral area of the animal. If we use some spray or pour on, then in those conditions the lesion can be seen on the face and dorsum. And the moisture is the important predisposing factor. And in the calves, sometimes the lesion may be seen on the muzzle and lips and ear tips, which are fed on the milk replacers. So this is a case in which you can see the lesions on the ventrum. Next, please. So for diagnosis, it can be done by on the basis of history, physical and clinical examination, and the history of the contact of the animal with any one of irritant which I have mentioned. And then treatment, it's for that we can go for the povidone iodine spray or antibacterial shampoo like Mycotin and Conazip. They can be used, and antihistaminics can also be used. Another is the idiopathic allergy conditions. These are the conditions which we are seeing in many of the buffalo, especially in which we are not able to rule out what is the etiology. So it could be incriminated to the insect arthropod infections, or due to the use of some systemic medications like penicillin, streptomycin, chloramphenicol, these different antibiotics. Or sometimes the animal may develop these allergic reaction after the use of biologicals, like nowadays we are regularly doing the FMDHS vaccination. It could be due to that also. And it could be due to the hypodermesis also. So we have to do the differential diagnosis in this condition. Next, please. So these are the idiopathic allergic reaction. The many cases of such conditions are coming to our clinics, in which after doing the skin scraping examination also and doing the fungal culture also, we have not reached at confirmation, and there is no history of giving any drugs also. So these are idiopathic cases of the allergy. Next, please. So these are the cases in which you can see these lesions there on the skin. Next, please. So they can be diagnosed on the basis of the history and physical examination, and by doing the dermatohistopathology. And the treatment is what we are doing. We are using the antihistaminic corticosteroids, and we are using the topical bath with the oatmeal shampoo. And in order to check the secondary bacterial infections, we are giving the antibiotics like enrofloxacin long-acting, or we can use a trimethoprim sulfur combination at the dose rate of 15 to 30 mg per kg body weight for the 5 to 7 days. Next is the honey sting, bee stings. So this is also a very common problem in the rural India, and due to the bite, it is very painful, and it causes a local inflammatory response that is limited to the pain and the swelling at the stem site. There may be systemic allergic reaction also in some cases that may lead to the death. So how generally the cattle and buffalo, they receive the attack of bees when the hive, it is either the children, they hurl the stone at the bee hive and they provoke them, or due to some noisy equipments which are operating near the beehives, close to the beehives. Sometimes the bees, while they are moving en route, they can enter into the yards of the cattle and buffalo, and they may bite or may sting the cattle and buffaloes. So these venom of these honeybee, they may contain the melittin and lipase, and the melittin is the main fraction that causes the pain and inflammation. And in this case, which I am talking about, in this case, the melittin, there was a hemoglobinuria. There was no other sign, but there was hemoglobinuria. So melittin, it causes the release of lecithin from the RBC, which is further transformed into the lysolecithin, and which by the action of the phospholipase A2, it causes the hemolysis of the RBC. Next, please. So this, in this case, there was a pain, and swelling may also be seen in some of the cases, but the case which the photographs I'm showing in this case, there was many barbed stings of the honeybee, but the animal was having the hemoglobinuria. So animal was dull. Sometimes it may get excited due to the pain also. There is irritation and annoyance to the animal, decreased feed intake, and some animals, they may develop the urticaria at the sting, and they may be sloughing up the skin. But hemoglobinuria can also be seen in some of the cases. Next, please. So diagnosis can be done on the history and of the sting by the honeybees, and by doing the clinical examination, by the presence of the barbed sting on the skin of the animal. And the treatments are using the NSAIDs like Melonex and antihistaminics, and by using the corticosteroids intravenously or intramuscularly. And if the animal is having the hemolysis, hemoglobinuria is there, in those conditions we have to go for the fluid therapy also to prevent the hemoglobinuric necrosis. Next, please. So this is the case which was presented in our clinics, in which you can see these stingers of honeybee on the ears and on the back of the animal. Next, please. So these are the stings, many stings, stingers on the honeybee, on the tail and the back of the cow. Next. Next is the environmental skin diseases. So among these, the burns cases, they are very common, which are presented to our clinics, or sometimes we have to go to the village visits also for treating such type of the cases. And these are the occasional scene which may be due to the fire in the barn, or due to the forest fire, or due to the bush fire, and may be due to the accidental spillage of the hot solution that results into scalds, formation of the bullae. Then it may be due to the electrical, either due to the electrocution or the lightning strike, or maybe improper use of the topicals like chemicals, or due to the radiational therapy also, the animals in which the radiation therapy is done. And burns are most commonly they're seen on the dorsum, on the face, and on the adherent teats of the animal. Next, please. So very important is that you know that the severity and prognosis and choice of therapeutic measures, it depends on both the depth and the burn surface area. So we have to calculate the total burn surface area. So there are two methods. This is by the Efimova et al. 2019, in which they used the rules of nines for calculating the total burn surface area. So as per them, the area of neck and head comprise 9%, chest 9%, abdomen 9%, back surface of the trunk 18%, each limb, upper limb 9%, one thigh 9%, one shin along with the foot 9%, and external genitalia and perineum it's 1%. So total is 100%. But in other method, the head 7%, back 7%, left side contributes to 24%, right side 24%, udder 4%, belly 4%, forelegs 8%, hind legs 12%, perineal region 6%, and tail 1%. Total is 100%. So these are the two methods by which we can calculate the total burn surface area, and we can see the severity and prognosis. We can tell us about the prognosis of the burn. Next. So burns, they are classified on the basis of the degree, that is into the 4 degrees, that is the first degree, second degree, third degree, and fourth degree. So this is the classification by the Efimova et al. 2019. So in primary, there is a redness of the skin. In the secondary burn, there is a blistering. And in the third degree burn, there is a necrosis of the entire thickness of the skin. And in the fourth degree, there is a charring of the tissue. Next, please. So in case of burns, there is a two type of a response. One is a systemic response, and other is a local response. So in the systemic response, it is characterized by the hypovolemia. There is a fluid and electrolyte loss, protein loss, development of the pulmonary edema, and there is an increased calorie requirement and a depressed immune system. Whereas in the local response is in terms of inflammation, vasospasm, fluid accumulation, electrolyte shift depending upon the extent of the thermal injuries. Next, please. So treatment can be done, diagnosis and treatment can be done on the basis of the history of the fire or burn, and by doing the physical examination and to see what degree of the burn is there, and we do the treatment accordingly. If it is a first and second degree burn, so it can be treated by using the moisturizer or by topical agents or antimicrobial contingents like silver sapphire diazine. And generally, this first and second degree burns, they heal within 2 weeks. Third degree burns, it destroys all the skin layers, and wounds have a severely long-term consequences. So they cannot be managed by the primary healing process. So in those conditions, we have to go for the additional surgical procedures, like we can go for the skin grafting, skin substitute, or application of the advanced wound dressing. They are required. Next, please. So the very first thing, the first aid in the case of the treatment of the burn is apply the cold water between having the temperature between 2 to 15 degrees Celsius. So this has an analgesic effect, and this improves the long-term wound healing. So if it is done within the 3 hours of injury, so we should go for the immediate application of the cold water. Then we have to go with the cover of the wound with the sterile and non-adherent dressing material to reduce the pain and contamination. Then if there is a smoke inhalation injury, sometimes in the fires, if the animal it has inhaled too much smoke, in those conditions we have to go for the bronchial hygiene, and we have to go for the oxygen therapy, and we can go for nebulization with the normal saline and oxygen therapy. Next. Fluid, because it causes the dehydration, severe dehydration, there is a loss of fluid due to the burns. So the choice of fluid is the Ringer lactate. So we can calculate the appropriate initial fluid rate, and then we can make the adjustment to achieve the normal physiological parameter and the urine output. But the colloid or the albumin, it should be avoided for 24 hours following the injury, as it may exacerbate the edema. Next, please. So in case of burns, there is a severe pain. So analgesics, they has to be used, and we can use a local lidocaine 2%, or we can use a sodium bicarbonate 9:1, and it can also be applied. NSAIDs and opioids and other analgesics such as ketamine can be delivered as a concentrate infusion in the fluid to the animal. And the chronic pain is there when there is a wound contracture, or when there is a high motion areas, and when the surgical scar revision is done. So in those conditions, we have to use these NSAIDs. And we have to do the nutritional and metabolic management also, because in the burns, the animal it's have the hypermetabolic state. So there is a hyperglycemia, there is a catabolism of the body protein stores in the severe burns. So we have to give the high energy critical care diet to the animal with the supplementation of the vitamin E. So this will help in the fast recovery of the animal. Next, please. Wound management. So as I have already discussed that the primary and secondary, it can be done by using the moisturizer or by using the topical creams, antimicrobial like silver sapphire diazine, and cerium nitrate and the silver sapphire diazine. It is used to treat the burns wound, and it has a result comparable to the asterotomy and grafting. So it is also a very good combination. Next. So if there is systemic signs, so in those conditions, we can go forward with the antibiotics like streptopenicillin, cephalosporin, cycloroquinolone. Corticosteroids, dexamethasone can also be given intravenously in order to prevent the hypovolemic shock. Antihistaminics are given, and we can topically apply the povidone iodine with the glycerin, or the aloe vera gel is very good. In our clinical cases, we have treated the cases by using the coconut oil mixed with the turmeric and camphor. So those animals also have responded well. So these are the different cases of the burns in which there is a different degree of the burns is there. Next are the nutritional diseases. So first is the copper deficiency. So it's a very common in the buffaloes, and it could be due to primary when the copper it is low in the diet, and secondary when the some other antagonistic factors they interfere with the absorption of the copper. Next, please. And this copper secondary it is developed due to the when there is an interaction between the copper molybdenum and the sulfur. So it results into formation of the insoluble complex, which results into the poor absorption of the copper. Next, please. So clinical manifestation of the copper deficiency are many, but if you see from the dermatological point of view, so there is a defective keratinization and there is a depigmentation, and there is a leukoderma. Next, please. So there is a depigmentation. Achromatopsia, it is the earliest sign, and then the black hairs, they are bleached to brown hairs, and the animals they have a spectacle eye condition, and there is a defective keratinization also. The hairs, the animals have a thin and harsh coat. Next, please. So leukoderma, this is due to the failure of synthesis of the melanin. So because the copper it is a component of the tyrosinase enzyme, which is required for the synthesis of melanin. So the animals they develop the leukoderma. So it's very commonly seen in case of buffaloes. So these are the copper deficient animals having the leukoderma. Next, please. These are the copper deficient animals having the leukoderma. So hemoglobinuria is the common signs. Yes, you can collect the blood sample, you can collect the urine sample, you can examine it to rule out whether it is a hematuria or hemoglobinuria, and you can collect the blood sample in the heparin for the estimation of the copper. Next, please. So this is the level of the blood level of the copper, liver, milk, and the hair level of the copper in the primary and secondary copper deficiency. So we can go for the plasma level estimation of the copper, and it will tell us whether the animal is copper deficient or not. Next, please. For the treatment, we can go with the oral supplementation of the copper, and copper sulfate may be used in the conditions at the dose rate of 4 gram for 3 to 5 weeks and 8 to 10 gram for 3 to 5 weeks. But oral supplementation of copper sulfate is not a good choice because the absorption is only 3 to 5% because of the conversion of the sulfate to the sulfide in the rumen. So it results into formation of copper sulfide, so which is excreted through the feces. So it is not a good choice, but we have injections of the copper glycinate, which is available as an injection Curam 9. So we can use this injection subcut in the brisket region, and we can repeat it at the month interval. But if the animal is having the hemoglobinuria due to copper deficiency, so in those conditions we can go for the injection COP BH. So this is given intravenously. 500 mg powder injection is there. So we can dissolve it in 500 ml of the normal saline, and we can give it intravenously. And it has to be followed with the subcut injection of the Curan 9 in the brisket region. So this way we can manage the copper deficiency. At the same time, we can use the corticosteroid also in order to stabilize the cell membranes of the RBCs, and we have to go with the fluid therapy also with the normal saline to prevent the hemoglobinuric nephrosis if the animal is having the hemoglobinuria and copper deficiency. Next, please. Zinc deficiency is very common and it results into the zinc responsive dermatosis. So it's more common in buffaloes, and primary when the diet is low in zinc, and secondary when there is a antagonistic factors like calcium, excess of the calcium, copper, iron, sulfur and phytates, they and other chelating agents, they interfere with the absorption of the zinc from the gut. Next please. So these are the clinical signs. The first is the sign is that there is a severe inaptitude, and the early sign of the zinc deficiency is excessive salivation in case of ruminants. So if you see from the dermatological point of view, the signs are alopecia, thickening and the wrinkling of the skin, and failure of keratinization of the skin. So that results into the parakeratosis. So we may see the scaly and eczematic dermatitis at the ear, face, vulva, head, udder, teats, and legs. Next, please. And diagnosis can be done on the basis of history and clinical sign, and by the estimation of the plasma zinc in the blood sample. Biopsy can also be done, and in which we can see that there is a thickening of all the layer of epidermis. So for treatment, we can go for the dose response trial treatment with the zinc sulfate. So it is used at the dose rate of 2 to 4 gram orally. It is daily supplemented to the animal for 1 to 2 weeks, and animal respond good to the treatment. Other organic sources of the zinc are like zinc picolinate, zinc lysine, and methionine. So these organic sources, they have a good bioavailability as they don't chelate with the others. Next, please. Next is the neoplastic and non-neoplastic diseases, and among that, the warts, they are very common, and we are seeing many cases of these warts in our clinics and in the field conditions. So fibropapilloma, they are the most common tumors which are seen, and they are benign and they are self-limiting. And mostly they are seen in the cattle of the age group between 6 to 24 years. They are up more. And there are the 6 strains of the bovine papilloma virus, that is strain 1 to 6, and they do not have a good cross immunity against one another. Next, please. So these are the clinical findings in the signs in the different type of papilloma virus. The papilloma virus 1 and 2, they results into formation of warts on the head, neck, trunk, and legs in young animals. And these warts, they are cauliflower-like. They have a rough, crusty surface lesions that are colored white to gray. Then bovine papilloma virus 3 and 4, they affect the gastrointestinal tract, and there may be formation of the these warts or the transitional cells carcinoma in the urinary bladder, as we see in case of Bracken-Fun poisoning. And BPV5, it results into rice grain like teat fibropapillomas, whereas the bovine papilloma virus 6, it leads to the front like lesions on the udder. Next, please. So these are the different animals which are having the warts, papilloma, different type of papillomas on the neck. Next, please. These having the lesions on the legs, on near the eyes, on the head. Next. On the udder, you can see on the teats. Next. And we can do the histopathology also of these warts for its confirmation, whether it is benign. So this is the histopathological smear showing the acanthomatous fibropapillomatous superficial view. Next. The treatment, mostly these warts, they are self-limiting and they regress within 1 to 8 months. But some warts, they don't regress. So the treatment, different treatments are used. The commonly treatment which is done is the anthomyelin, that is the lithium antimony thiamelate. So this injection, it is given 15 ml subcutaneously intramuscularly on alternate day for 3 to 5 injection. And we can even go with the autohematotherapy, in which we can take the 20 ml of the venous blood and we can give it subcutar IM, and we can repeat it weekly for the 4 weeks. Ivermectin is also a good choice of drug for the treatment of the warts at the dose rate of 300 microgram per kg body weight to subcutaneous route at the weekly intervals. And Thuja, that is the homeopathic drug, 200 strength 1 ml, it can be given orally twice for the 7 days, and then it is followed by the once for 23 days. So it has yielded the good results in the regression of the these warts. Next, please. So we can even try the autogenous vaccine also. And next, please. And this vaccine, it is prepared by taking this warts. We can wait, then we can triturate it, and we can inactivate it with the 0.3% formaldehyde. And by filtering it and by keeping it overnight at the incubation, we can give it subcutar IM at the dose rate of 5 ml at the weekly interval till the wart regresses. Next, please. Then among the miscellaneous skin diseases are the selenium toxicity. So this is also a common problem because the most of the soils from the Haryana, Punjab and West Bengal, and they are excess in selenium. And foders which are growing on such soil, they are also high in selenium. So chronic selenosis, it results into alkali disease, whereas the selenium toxicity, there is a lameness in the animal, there is a irregular growth of the hooves, there may be cracks below the coronary vein, and there is a sloughing of the hoof also. The animal go weak, they may be depressed and emaciated, there is a anemia, and there is a loss of hair also, and animal have a hide bob condition. This is one of the case which was presented from the Kathua district, in which there was the cracks at the coronary band, and there was a irregular growth of the hooves. Next. So diagnosis can be done on the basis of the clinical sign, on the basis of the estimation of level of the selenium in the hooves, hair, and soil and fodder. And the treatment can be done by using the arsenic compounds, by using the sodium arsenate, 60 gram mg per day for 7 to 10 days, or we can use acetyl arsen also, 10 ml IM on alternate day for the 7 injections, or we can use the pentasulfate mixtures of the zinc sulfate, copper sulfate, and ferrous sulfate, etc. It can be fed to the animal to treat this condition. Next, please. And I think this is the last condition, that is a Dignala disease. So some people, they also relate it with the selenium toxicity also. But we have seen this in the form of outbreak in our area, because the Araspora, it is a paddy growing area. And this Dignala disease, it generally develops when the animal, they are fed on the rice straw, which is having the multiple dark specks, which has turned white in color. And basically this turned white in color due to the growth of the Fusarium fungus. So this fungus, it produces the mycotoxins, which causes the vasoconstriction, and it causes the necrosis and the gangrene of the dependent parts, especially of the extremities, that is of the ear tubes, and even the tail and the limbs of the animal. So next, please. So these are the clinical findings. So when the animal is fed this Fusarium affected paddy straw, so it may develop the signs that initially there may be inappetence and to anorexia. There is a gangrenous lesion on the face, on the ear, tail and limb. There may be ulceration and the gangrene of the tail, face, ear tips, and sloughing of the skin of extremities. And when the limbs are involved, due to this there is a lameness, there is an animal have a pain, it have an inability to walk and stand, and the animal, it prefers to remain in the recumbent position. So here you can see there's lameness in the animal and the gangrene of the extremities. especially of limbs. Next. So these are the buffalo herd which was affected with the Degnala disease, animals showing the lameness. Next. This is the lameness in the Degnala affected buffalo. Next, please. The congested mucous membrane. Next. This is the ulceration and gangrene of the face of the animal due to the Degnala. Next, please. Limbs, gangrene, ulcerative and gangrenous lesion on the legs of the animal. Next. This limbs involvement, there is a gangrenous lesions. Next. Again, there is a sloughing of the hoofs also, there is a lesions on the limbs, even the edema of the limb also develop because of the vasoconstriction. Next. Next, please. Next, please. This is a gangrene of the tail. This is the ulcerative and gangrenous lesion on the ears. The tail of the animal, you can say here there is a lesions on the ear tips. There is a drying of the ears and there is a gangrene of the ear tips. And this is the pedistra, which is having the dark and white specks. So this fungus is generally grow when there is a high moisture. Mostly this pedistra start there in the fields, and when the field is irrigated due to the high temperature and due to the moisture, this fungus generally grow. Next, please. So this is the diagnosis can be done on the basis of history and clinical sign. We can go for the culture of the pedistra on the different fungal culture. We can go for fungal culture and we can grow it on the media. And this shows the photograph shows the fusarium and its macroponidia. Next. This is again the fusarium oxysporum, which was isolated from the pedistra. Next, please. These are other fusarium species which were. Next. And finally the treatment, and the treatment is, since there is a ulcerations and there is a secondary bacterial infections, because the animal, when it prefers to remain in the recumbency, there is a feces of the animal, urine of the animal that is rich in bacteria. So there is secondary bacterial infection. So in order to check that, we can go for the treatment with the antibiotic. So oxytetracycline long acting can be given at the 20 mg per kg body weight IM, and we can repeat it after 72 hours. Antihistaminics can also be given intramuscularly. There is a pain in the animal due to the lesions, so meloxicam can also be given. Trivivate as a supportive, and a zinc sulfate can be supplemented at the rate of 2 gram per orally daily for 15 days. Next, please. And this is the capsule tib herb. So this can also be used for the treatment. So it has yielded good result. The outbreak which we have seen in that outbreak, we treated it with the tib-herbs and it has yielded the good results. So this is all from my side. Thanks for the patience listening.
Thank you, Dr. Bhardwaj, for a very long and elaborate journey down the bovine dermatology. Sir, we have a few queries from the speakers, to the audience. Of course, the audience has been listening very patiently to you, has been appreciating. You have been putting your hanky on the nose, which means that it is too cold in Jammu. We agree on that part.
Yes.
So, There's some basic questions. How do we differentiate between bacterial and fungal infection in the field scenario? Any tips that you have?
Okay, sir. Sir, in case of fungal, generally the lesions, they are crusty and they are the circular lesions, whereas in case of bacterial, it is not so. Mostly the lesions, they are moist. And even the distribution of the lesions also. This way we can, mostly in case of fungal, the lesions, mostly they are on the face, on the neck. So by seeing the distribution of the lesions also, we can say that key. And moreover, the fungal infections, they are more common in the young animals. It is not seen in the adult animal. So just by keeping in mind the age of the animal, also by seeing the distribution of the lesion, so we can say that whether it's a fungal or bacterial.
Any field oriented test which can differentiate between the two? Simple one, yet effective one. Or no?
Field oriented.
Yeah, something which can be done in the field. If you have no, then say no. Then right. To differentiate between a fungus and a bacteria, or a fungus and a mange. That is what the question is.
Itching is a if in case of mange there is a itching, but in case of dermatophytosis, in case of a cattle, the itching is not that much. So this way we can differentiate. Otherwise, you can take the impression smear and we can stain it and we can confirm it. Otherwise,
yeah. Sir, people have asked the prognosis for third-degree burns, especially in large animals.
Yeah, it is prognosis. It is very poor because we have to go for the skin grafting in such conditions, and a long treatment is needed. Sometime as we take care in case of small animals or in case of humans, such type of the care cannot be taken in the large animals. So prognosis is very good because we can't go for the this skin grafting and regular debridement of the lesions and. So it's a prognosis is grave in case of third-degree burns in case of large animals.
Is a honey effective in burns?
Yes, sir. Some people they are using, but it's a, in my opinion, because it's a sugar. It contains the sugar, so it will promote the proliferation of the bacteria, because in such condition there may be secondary bacterial infection also. So if we will apply, that may be a good media for even the bacteria to proliferate. But we have not used the honey. Aloe vera gel is good. That is the preferred. We have used it, and it also having a soothing action on the skin.
Sir, you are mute. Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. There is something which lies in what Dr. Bhardwaj is saying. Once you are treating with whatever agents you are, you have to use number of precautions so that it is away from air, it is away from the excess in order to reduce on the bacterial load. So many people are using mosquito meshes and all, which is very important for managing burns. So the next question is acetyl arsen currently available?
No, it is not available. I searched on net also. I didn't get any preparation of acetyl arsen.
So there's a question from Dr. Ravi Chandran. I think probably he's from South. In sheep, we have sometimes once we put our hand, we find hairs coming out. So what could it be, and what could be the treatment be like?
In case of sheep,
wool tufts come out in your hand. What could be the reason? Probably some mineral deficiency.
Yeah, it could be due to, sir, zinc deficiency, and because the wool eating is a common syndrome, especially in the lambs. So wools it peels out very easily. In case of zinc, it could be due to, and we can go for supplementation with the zinc sulfate at the dosage of 1 to 2 gram per hour daily for 1 to 2 weeks for the treatment.
Sir, any guidelines for photosensitization in large animals?
Yeah. Actually, I missed many conditions. I was having so many other conditions already. It was very lengthy talk, so I didn't keep it. Photosensitization, primary and secondary is very common. In secondary, when there is a bile duct obstruction is there, it is due to the phyloerythrin pigment, and there is a erosions. There is a extremities mostly they're involved. So we have to keep the animal in the shade. We have to treat for the liver problems. We have to go with the dextrose containing fluid and the liver tonics. And very important is that we have to keep animal away from the sunlight. We have to keep it in the shade and topical application of the antibacterial, and this way we can manage the photodermatitis in the animals.
That gives a clue to actually Dr. Nagaraj that as canine dermatology, bovine dermatology also needs some elaborate sessions, and we should be organizing the same. That brings us to the end of the session, sir. On behalf of the entire organizing team, I thank you all for the elaborate take us. I idly believe that it should have been in part 1 and part 2.
Yes, sir. Actually, I was also feeling that actually it was too lengthy, and because every bacterial, fungal, parasitic, everything has nutritional, so it was too lengthy for me also to speak. And I think I am feeling that I have not
Justified a few topics.
justified, yeah.
But you have justified many of the topics also.
Quite well. I was very fast, so this was the thing. But I think we can speak well when we have a limited talk, keeping either bacterial or fungal or one topic, covering all.
Yeah. I'll just put the last question and over to Dr. Nagaraj after that. Can you just talk about corticosteroid-induced skin lesions in large animals, if any? Corticosteroid-induced skin lesions to Dr. Bhardwaj before Dr. Nagaraj closes the session.
Sir, when excessive use of corticosteroid, it will result into its absorption, and it will result into immunosuppression and the development of the dermatocosis and the fungal infection. So they can develop in such animals. So frequent use of topical corticosteroid, even the parental this corticosteroid should be avoided because it causes immunosuppression, and it may result into the fungal and the dermatocosis.
Right. Nagaraj sir, if you have some expressions to make.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhardwaj, for your wonderful session. You covered everything, and most importantly, whatever diseases what we are facing in the field, you have given a lot of idea about the diseases. So definitely, I hope this will help a lot for our bovine practitioners. I thank one and all for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to all. That brings us to the close of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.